Welcome back, everyone, on our final segment on the Mount Ebal Curse Tablet, and we're excited to have discussion about what does this mean. We've got Dr. Peter Van Der Veen, Dr. Scott Stripling, and we're going to talk about, well, what is the real theological consequences of this tablet? I know that when I've been looking through the biblical narrative with patterns of evidence, I've been thinking about the fact that God is a God of history. He has acted in history, and we're seeing that action happening there. But he's also a God of law, right? And so at Mount Ebal, there were laws or commandments that if they were followed, they would be blessings. And if they were not followed, there would be curses. So what does this all mean for us today?
Well, when we use the word curse, that's very foreign to the Western mind, but it's not foreign to the Eastern mind or to the biblical. Think of consequences for the Western listener. When we say curses, there are consequences for our actions. For autonomous man in the day that we live, those are huge theological implications, that we are accountable to God for what we do. And as I have said before, if there is a God of the Bible, and I believe this affirms that there is, then that God holds a moral claim on our lives. So the stakes couldn't possibly be any higher.
What does the future look like for this whole project? Obviously, we're waiting for this review to come back on the paper that you submitted. What's going to happen next?
Once the article is finally published, then actually we've only done half of the work, because we have published the inscription that is found inside of the tablet just before and after the press release in March 2022 that we received loads of pictures that had been taken by our Czech colleagues, photographs of the front and back of the tablet. We hadn't seen this material before, and while looking at this, we just started to see the same words as we had found inside, which is very interesting because it confirms that we were not just imagining things. On the back of it, we have the bulges of the stylus, which pushes through the very thin material of the lead, and you actually see that the back of the letters of the inside inscription on the back. Now, all this stuff needs to be looked at in much more detail, and this will be the subject of part B of the article, which will then be written and also will be submitted. Naturally, there is still more work to be done. This tablet comes only from a third of the dump that was actually wet sifted. There is 2/3 more material. Who knows? There may be another tablet somewhere. There may be other material we couldn't even dream of. Future will tell. So actually, I suppose, yes, we have only started to scratch the surface.
Associates for Biblical Research, we have a lot to thank the organization and Scott, taking the risk. We think about risk to basically go and look for something. And there might be people here that want to help and support what Associates of Biblical Research are doing, because there's financial risk, there's professional risks that they're taking, but they're doing it. Well, you tell me, why are you digging and spending your life this way? You could have probably been a professional athlete.
Well, once upon a time, I wanted to think so. I was captured by the biblical text, and archaeology was a natural outgrowth of that. Can we find a synchronism, a verisimilitude between what we find in the material culture and what we read in the text? That was my entree into this world, and so the Conquests was the perfect place for us to explore this in Israel. I appreciate your kind words about ABR. It is a great organization, and we have incurred a lot of expenses in doing this. It cost us more than you could imagine just to do the project in the first place, and then the publication cost and so forth. So if anyone feels led to contribute to help us with that, we would be very grateful.
Let me end with this thought. That's been sitting there for a long time, that curse tablet. Why do you think philosophically this type of discovery, since it's so significant, why now? Have you ever thought about that?
Well, I mean, if Zertal had found this, he would not have been able to read the text, because there was no technology to penetrate it at the time. He was so close, they dry sifted it and missed it. And it was only now that we have the technology that would enable us to find it and then to read it, that it was found. Some might call that providential, and I'm comfortable with that.
Peter, your final thought on that?
Very similarly, it's been only over the last decades that much more work has been done also in terms of the Serbit al-Khadim, Proto-Sinaitic inscriptions. We wouldn't probably have been able to recognize some of these letters had this work not been done over the last 20 years or so. We're in a very fortunate situation today, yes.
Yeah, the technology is sort of coming together at a time when the discoveries need the help of that technology for you to be able to undecipher and to see these things. So, well, everyone, I'm glad that you are able to see the patterns of evidence that are forming in the world of archaeology as we've been showing them and demonstrating them, that God is a God who acts in history. And I want to thank Peter and Scott, the commitment you've made to dedicate your life to this type of work. Thank you for sharing this exciting discovery with us, and we will keep in touch on all of it. So once again, thank you for what you've done.